Our greatest successes in life are often found in helping others succeed. Welcome to the Life Masters podcast, hosted by Tanya Memme. Discover real-life stories from mentors, leaders, experts, and everyday people who devote their lives to helping others succeed. Every episode takes you on a unique journey, an emotional experience, and tells a story never to be forgotten. Tune in to Life Masters with Tanya Memme and start fast-tracking your journey to success today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya Memme, and welcome to another episode of Life Masters. I am so excited to have on the show today Gautam Khetrapal. I've watched all of your stuff. You're all over the internet. It's pretty amazing. But you're a transformational speaker. You're a prolific speaker. You're a host, a trainer, an entrepreneur, a TEDx speaker. And the TEDx talk that I watched had over 7 million views. And you're the founder of lifeplugin.com. So let's just dive right on in and tell me, how did all of this get started?
Wow. I think in terms of, you mean in terms of the business or everything that I do?
Right? Everything. We can start where, did you have a dream from when you were a little kid and you dreamt of becoming, because you are literally all over. I mean, you're so incredible and you're rubbing elbows with Lisa Nichols and Jack Cannon and Wim Hof, and you've spoken on stages with them. It's pretty incredible. So
I got to take you around with me to introduce me everywhere,
yeah, exactly.
This works. We have to figure out a deal separately on the side.
Okay, deal.
To be honest, there's aspects that I can pinpoint that, these were the milestones that got me to this point. But
yeah,
I think, there's the place where it all started, I would say, there's this quote by Richard Bach, the famous book, Jonathan Siegel. And then he wrote a book called Illusions. And there's this quote there that says, we teach best what we needed to learn the most. And for me, everything that I do is that. I would joke about, I was so self-destructive. I had to make it part of my job to take care of myself. It's no humility here, but I was clearing my parents' karma for the first 24, 25 years of my existence just by being the child that I was. It was not easy for them. Now they're very happy, they're very proud and all of that stuff, but it wasn't easy for them. A lot of things that I guess I needed to work on myself, in my health, in my emotional intelligence or ability to manage my emotions, my sense of self-esteem. Public speaking, I get to do that now to some degree at a reasonable level. But if I go back even 7-8 years ago, I already started doing it professionally. But when I was growing up, there is no, speaking in front of people was public speaking for me, let alone in English. English is not even my first language. So there's a lot of the outward manifestation of, my work that I do or whatever I'm teaching or whatever I get to experience, thankfully, in this life is the outward manifestation of the work that I needed to do on myself. So that's the source of it.
Yeah.
And how it start, I think it's hindsight is 2020. Right. So I'm speaking from that place right now. There's this aspect of me that always came naturally. I grew up in not a very financially privileged life, but relationally extremely privileged, extremely privileged. I grew up to the sound of laughter every single day of my life.
Oh, in India.
And then with a big community. And before I could even understand how meaningful and how powerful it is for well-being and just feeling confident or feeling centered and not going extremely towards addictions, how powerful it is to just have those strong connections that you can rely upon. I grew up in that environment. So, and not just a serious sense, but it was I knew that there were always people that care for me no matter what. And then it was always the environment filled with play and joy. Right? So that's one thing. And then my father has written 2 books on philosophy. My mom is a science teacher and a Reiki master healer. So I was kind of bred to be in this environment from very early on. Right? So what I do now is I'm interested in creating ecosystems that inspire friendships in the context of growth, right? So all the big events or small events or the masterminds that we do, what they're doing is really they're creating a context of growth in which what we want to do is, and this is where most of our effort goes on a day-to-day basis, is to bring the right people into the ecosystem. Because once you do that, and once there's some really cool and deep connections form between people in the context of growth, that thing, you can remove the context, and then that relationship carries forward the momentum of whichever context that relationship was formed in. Here's what I mean by that. Imagine you meet someone at a business conference. Had a great time with someone, 2-3 days, you had a nice contact. 6 months later, you're traveling to some city and you meet the same person. It's like, hey, how are you?
Right.
Right? And then it's very easy to restart the conversation about business because that's the context in which the relationship was formed. Same thing, you meet someone in a marketing conference, you meet them again. The context in which the relationship was formed was marketing. So it's very easy to talk about marketing. So my intention is to create a really good context of growth for people to come and engage in meaningfully in a way that, stirs some emotion, have a lot of fun, create lasting memories, right? And create some personal breakthroughs. And that's the work that our company does. But
yeah, and you put on some of the largest events in the world in Nepal, and you help so many different kinds of people that are going through trauma or people that just want personal growth, transformation, and you do it through experiences. Like the whole thing is one huge experience, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call it some of the biggest events in the world right now, but thank you for saying that. But they are, I would say,
effective though, for sure.
Yeah, that I agree. Very effective. They're very powerful in terms of not just the breakthroughs that they get, because when you're in the transformational industry, it's very easy for you to start receiving, oh, you changed my life, or this thing changed my life.
Yeah.
Case studies are important. I'm a marketer too, so I know the value of case studies. But the case studies that we are more interested in is from people 6 months after, 1 year after, and how the ripple effects of the transformation that they had from experiencing something 6 months ago, 3 months ago, or a year ago. That's the true mark of, transformation that people get in their life. That's very interesting to me. And the reason why it's very interesting to me is early on, the things that changed my life were ecosystems that I don't know how I ended up being there, but they were always ecosystems where there was deep connections, conversations around personal growth, transformation, and experientially taking us through a process where it's not just lecturing, but I'm sitting in the driving seat of my own transformation. So, I got exposed to those ideas and those ecosystems very early on. I guess that's one of the things.
So are you saying you feel like you're kind of groomed for this, and then because of the number of people that you knew or the people that you've interacted with and the support that you have from your family, you just ended up following these footsteps and wanted to create this thing in a way you were creating this for other people as well. You wanted them to have that kind of experience as well through Life Plugin.
In a sense, as I grow older and I reflect on the work that I'm doing, yes, unconsciously recreating the things that have been very, very meaningful to me, unconsciously and consciously. Creating the emotions that I really enjoyed in my past. They were so valuable and how special they are. Just being in a space where people can see you for who you really are. Just being in a space that is so rare and so beautiful. It's just, there's one of my teachers mentioned this: the places where we are seen and cared for are holy places. Just creating an environment where it's easy to be seen and cared for by strangers. It's one of the most healing experiences ever, right? So our efforts, our efforts are in pursuit of creating more and more spaces and allowing, hopefully, as many people as possible to get to experience that. And not just in a way that, oh Tanya, it's all okay, you're healing. Yeah, fine. But, also having cool conversations, laughing together, doing, weird things together, really enjoy the process. And that's where I think that's the unique thing, that the unique lens through which I'm able to see, let's say, creating ecosystems. There's this aspect of, there's vulnerability in acknowledging emotions. There's vulnerability in, feeling like whatever the difficult emotions that haven't been processed. But laughter is also vulnerability. Joy. For you to experience true laughter, enjoy, your guards need to be down.
Yeah.
Right? And we walk around with our guards always being high up, right? So for you to be able to truly enjoy, celebrate, laugh, have real connections, the guards need to go down, right? Yeah. So event programming, the way we map our event programming or experience designing is, before we identify what are the things that we want to teach, let's say in a 3 or 4 day program, we first map the emotion that we want to take people through. So there's first the emotional programming that goes through. We assume we have kind of like a good estimate of what is the starting emotion that people come with, and we know the end point, and then what is the journey that we want to take people through. And then the experiences, the parties, the social activities, or the breakthrough activities are mapped on top of those emotions. So we take this process as seriously as we can.
But you have fun, and you get to that point where you can be vulnerable and open up and connect. A lot of it is about making that connection with other human beings, which we don't do enough of. I want to read something that you said on your website. I found this, and I just love this. It's so beautiful. I blend my love of teaching, comedy, personal growth, and building tribes for creating transformational adventures around the world through summits, masterminds, coaching, and keynote speaking. And your mission is to turn one's learning and education into something intrinsically motivating and a lifelong adventure, and build a Disneyland of learning and education. So, I mean, that is so beautiful. And that's also kind of what you talk about too in your TED Talk speech. But I love, love, love the company that you started, Life Plugin. And I want to show a little video of what that's about, because it's really cool, just so you can get a grasp at what you've created, which is phenomenal.
My name is Gautam Khetrapal and I'm the founder of Life Plugin. Imagine having access to a self-coaching practice that allows you to get unstuck and create massive success in any area of your life. Imagine learning a transformational framework that once learned serves you for the rest of your life. That's what I want to talk about. You see, for the last 12 years, I have personally dedicated time to spend with some of the greatest teachers in the transformational education. These are teachers who've sold more than 100 million books, or people who are running some of the greatest transformational institutions and bringing personal growth ideas to the world. Or people who've been featured on inspiring institutions such as The Oprah Show or the documentary like The Secret, so on and so forth. This passion has allowed me to integrate various transformational practices from mindfulness meditation to NLP to hypnosis to behavioral psychology to trauma-releasing breathwork to ancient shamanic practices and much more in a unique way that has dramatically changed my life. It's taken me to some of the biggest stages in the world, sharing the things that I'm deeply passionate about. It's given me the ability to give talks that have gone viral. It has allowed me to create my dream business in India where we play around with various transformational ideas. It's also transformed my body beyond my wildest imagination, and it has created a sense of fulfillment in my relationships that I never thought was possible. And today, after serving thousands of people around the world experience genuine healing and transformation, I've seen the same questions, same struggles, same concerns, and same desires show up over and over again.
I mean, pretty phenomenal. Pretty phenomenal. So anybody watching this, I just want you to know how incredible this company is that you've created. It's mind-blowing. And what would you say is the type of client that comes to one of your events? Like, what are people struggling with mostly, or is it all over the map? Or like, what's the best reason to come to your?
The ideal persona that actually comes and stays with us for the long run are people who are, say, in the role of conscious leadership. Right? What that means is people who have run a startup anywhere, who run a company of, let's say, that is not more than 15 years old, which meaning they're CEOs, but very entrepreneurial, very fast-growing companies, or coaches themselves, or artists. So this is the kind of persona that comes there, which are not really. There are aspects of their life where there's pain, but there's also aspects of their life where there is they've created some sort of breakthroughs, right? So they get the process. These are the ones that I get to work the most closely with, right? So they actually end up at our events, right? So we do right now, there's two different types of events we do, like a 3 days, 250 people residential experience, or there's a 15 people where I live with them for like 4 days and we do some practices that we don't get to do them in a larger group setting.
So right? 250 people you're saying at the one event, and then about 15
in the other. 15.
Wow. That's great. Okay.
And then for the programs, for people who cannot, make it to the event, or at times doesn't work, or money-wise, it's a bit too expensive for them. There's this offering where we teach the main transformational process behind it's the subconscious programming process that I first applied on myself, and then I brought it as a coaching practice with the intention to serve people who wanted to go on the same path. So we turned that process into a digital learning experience. So people who can't make it because of logistics or commitment, or they just can't take the time off from the work that they're in, so they can engage in a digital learning program, right? So, and that's all across the board, right? So people who are students, people who are late in their after retirement, and everybody in between.
Very, very nice. Okay. So when someone has, like, I know this must have been at one point a huge dream for you, right? Mm-hmm. A massive dream for you. And so what was it like before this began, and what qualities within you? I'm trying to, because Life Masters is about helping people get out of their rock bottom and believe in their dreams and actually go for it. So what qualities within yourself helped you finally believe in yourself enough that you could do this? I mean, this is a massive undertaking, and you did it, and you're doing it.
Wow. So to call it that this was my dream is also, I think it's an understatement. There were many moments where I didn't even dare to dream this, right? And so a lot of times, if my dreams were much smaller than, what it is now, like whatever level it is right now, like, one of my strengths, it doesn't leave me where my starting point was. I'm running this business, and, it's unfolding in very meaningful ways and helping thousands of people. But like my first full-time job when I was growing up in India was $100 a month. That's my starting point, right? So at different points in time, I would dream something really far ahead, but I didn't know how that would manifest. Right. So one of the things that has been consistent with me is I don't know where it comes from. I think I'm just genetically blessed, or I just grew up in an environment that this was common, was a very simple but very profound practice of just seeing things to be grateful for in whichever moment I'm at, right? And then the more I study all these transformational philosophies from the world, right, like the most fundamental one that stuck with me and that created, I think, the most return in my life is just staying in the place of gratitude, which is being in the energy of receiving. Right. So whatever the dream is, let's say the dream of business or the dream of public speaking or dream of helping people or dream of the kind of love that I want to experience in my life, that's the dream. But like, how can I appreciate the one that I already have? And the more I did that, the universe started giving me more opportunities to appreciate that more and more. That's one.
So how does that look for you, though? I'm just trying to, because people often talk about manifestation, but many people don't really understand, like, well, what does that mean? How do I do it? How do I incorporate it? And if I'm in a really low place in my life, how do I get myself out of it and feel grateful? And am I forcing myself to be grateful? Or, sometimes it's hard to be in that energy space. And so what does that look like for you? How can you sort of walk people through that so that they can get to that energy space if they're going through a tough time right now?
There's so many different things that come to mind. One of the easiest one to train that muscle, let's say, to train the muscle of trusting how real transformation, whatever we want to manifest, let's say whatever we want to create a real big transformation in, is one thing is the simplest would be commit to transforming your body. And because there's one is the changing of the body and like changing the body permanently. In the pursuit of that, there's a lot of spiritual lessons that one might learn, and there's some lessons can only be learned experientially. One of them is that when we commit to changing our body or living from a place of health and consistently over a long period of time, one of the learnings that happens experientially is that anything meaningful in life, like a real transformation, takes a long period of time. That's one. Second thing that one person learns is the value of compounding effect. So I'll open many can of worms. So let's see where it goes.
Great. Yeah, let's do it.
So imagine, because compounding effect, when we speak about it, it's hard to process or live a life from that place. But it's good to remind ourselves that the compounding effect is always in play. Imagine you have a pond, right, a small water body. And a guy comes to you and says, hey, Tanya, here's a few water lilies. I heard this example from David Meltzer, I think. He says, here's a few water lilies. And every year they double in number. And in 25 years, your pond will be filled with, in 30 years, your pond will be filled with water lilies. Every year they double and your pond will be filled in 30 years. Great. You buy it, right? What that means, in 30 years, if your pond will be full completely with water lilies, in 29 years, it will only be half full. And in 28 years, it'll only be 1/4 full.
Okay.
So you commit to something for 28 years and you say, hey, it's only 1/4. What the hell? And people drop way before that. To understand the value of compounding, but there's compounding on once I start accumulating different skills without seeing the real return in my life, it's to give it long enough time to let it rest and come back to the process consistently. It starts to compound, and that compounding is witnessed or experienced in a longer frame of time. So that's another thing that one might very easily learn with changing the body. It's very easy. People are very committed to it. And the other thing that people learn is that when you are trying to work on your body, another thing that happens is that anyone who's, let's say, strength training, they get to learn this premise of progressive overload. I don't know if you're familiar with this term, but if you're increasing strength or developing muscle, the way it works is you go to the gym and you lift something. Let's say you lift a bar from the floor, right? Yeah. Okay, I'll lift 6 repetitions. Like I will put enough weight so I can only do 6, maximum 6, minimum 4, maximum 6. I do that. Let's say I do 50 kilos. I do 6. Okay, next week I come back. Once I hit 6, that means I can go further. So then I just increase the weight. So I remain in the same range of 4 to 6. That's how you keep on increasing the weight, but you keep the same repetition range. That's called progressive overload method. But what it's doing is over time, you're going back to the gym, doing the same exercise with the same level of struggle that you chose, 4 to 6 repetition, right? And as soon as you get to the comfort level of already I can do 6 repetitions, you increase the level of struggle, which is the weights, right? And over time, what tends to happen is that you choose the level of struggle consistently, right? That the level of struggle is I will remain between 4 to 6 repetition, but all of a sudden you can lift 100 kilos, 120 kilos off the floor when you started with 30. Right. So
how do you keep the momentum, though? I know that, sometimes it's hard to keep the thing inside of you alive, to keep going and believe it's going to happen. And, like, does that come with training, experience, or are there techniques, modalities that, people can do, advice?
Well, depending on where a person is when they're starting out, right? So
Yeah.
if the easiest, we'll talk about the basics a lot. The easiest thing to do is to have a rock solid morning routine. If there's one keystone habit, there's this book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And what he studied, a fascinating book, really high, I would highly recommend it. One of the things that he mentions is that across all domains, he found the most highly successful, most efficient, most effective people across different industries. What he found is that they do these four things every morning, non-negotiable. They walk in their morning routine and they do something for their mind, something for their body, something for their spirit, something for the business energy. So for the mind, it would be like a mindful practice. For the body, it will be they eat healthy or, have some morning drink or go for exercising. For spirit, they'll pray, or do meditation, some sort of meditations or some sort of spiritual practice. And then for emotions, they will do something, spend time with a loved one or express gratitude to someone. If you have a partner, just be hopelessly unromantic. When you wake up in the morning, just give them kisses, give them some love for some emotional energy. So emotional energy, spiritual energy through meditations and prayers, to get something for physical energy, which is through moving the body or, just putting something good in the body. And the fourth one is business energy, which is the question that he asks in the book is, what's the one thing that I must do today such that by doing it, everything else either becomes easy or unnecessary? That's the question. So I fumbled a little, but mental energy, emotional energy, spiritual energy, physical energy, and business energy. These are the four things that you lock time in the morning before you turn off your phone from flight mode. And that's what you work on, right? So what does that look like? You wake up, you have some sort of mindful practice.
What does your morning look like?
Okay, good question. Right now, it looks like this. I wake up, and I do like 10 to 15 minutes of mindful practice, which is nothing but just focusing on my breath.
While you're laying in bed, or are you up, sitting up?
I go back a little bit more. I wake up. First thing I do is I prepare my 1 liter tea. I drink mate in the morning, so I get to have like 1 liter of water. So while that's getting prepared, I set up my altar. I light up the candles. There's some Palo Santo. I light that. My tea is ready. I sit down, 10 to 15 minutes of mindful breathing, which is just centering myself, right? Just focusing on the breath. Mind goes away, bring my attention back to the breath. Goes away, bring it back to the breath. Goes away, bring it back to the breath. It's a form of Buddhist mindful practice. It's nowhere to go. But can I rest? How can I rest my attention back to the present moment? And it's hard. What it reflects back over and over is how hard it is to just come back to the present moment.
Yeah.
Over time, it starts to get easier. Right? So was centering the mind. And then I have a reflection practices that primes my subconscious mind into the way I want my day to unfold, and then by extension, my life to unfold. So I reflect on small moments with which I experienced some love yesterday. Like, I was talking to my parents on the phone, and I do all my calls while walking. I was walking, and in the dog park, there's a dog that randomly came towards me and just started jumping over me. It was so adorable. And my heart felt a little bit of love. The intention is to train my awareness to see that love is always present through strangers, through my loved one, through my friends. So every time I have an experience of love, I capture it, right? So I wanted to train my awareness to see that more and more, right? So that's one of the first reflections I do in micro moments where I experienced love yesterday. And there's a big reason behind it, which we can unpack if you're interested. So I reflect on that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. Yeah, okay.
And the next thing is just I run through a list of gratitude, right? In ways like I'm grateful for. Right. So that will include like the way I took care of my body, the way I took care of my family, my friends, things that I got to achieve, something cool that happened to me, everything goes in that list. Right. And then I drink my mate. I continue my fasting as long as I can. And there's some days I go to yoga, some days I go to the gym. That's what I do. Right. And the morning part, before my flight mode goes off, most days, not every day, before it goes off, I do something creative for the work, because I'm in the space where I'm creating new workshops or new formats of teaching, let's say. And my recent research and study has been in Buddhist mindfulness meditation. So I dedicate some time, whether into reading something or consolidating some thoughts, into creating new workshops. And then I get back to my work, which is emails, WhatsApp, team meetings, etc.
And these are workshops for your life plug-in program.
Right now, so at present, it's the place where my creative energy is needed most is workshop, because I have an event coming up next week. And I'm creating a new element, 3-hour element in that whole 4-day event. So needed to dedicate some energy to that. So that
Okay.
was my one thing that if I do that, everything else will be either easier or unnecessary for business. So
And
that's
what would you say to people that don't have a morning routine, that have like 4 kids and are running around, have to, they're just like, they're stressed out. And how do they find that time to create for themselves in the morning?
get one. Start with
Yeah.
start with 15 minutes.
So it's
Because
that important.
it's just at the very minimum, what it's doing, you're signaling to your own mind that your well-being is important. Even if you wake up 15 minutes, focus on my breath, 5 minutes, and the next 10 minutes, I'll do some journaling, but I'll do it every single day. That's it. Exercise time, I'll find some other time, or I'll start finding more and more time later. But everyone, if we are in whichever stage of life we are in, like our time is full. So if we want to make a change, it will take time out of something else that we are not able to give right now. So it will be hard, right? That's why change is hard, right? So start where it's easy. So don't start with like 3 hours. If you have the luxury, yes, if like right now it's easy for me to say I don't have kids. I have very little responsibility, right? But when I'm traveling or when I have very limited time, what I try to the best of my ability is, can I give myself, instead of 3 hours, can I do it half an hour? Some days, can I do it 10 minutes?
As long as you do it and you find that time.
The act of doing it, and it's the act that recognizes that working on myself is the thing that at some day will compound. It's always compounding. And it's recognizing also the truth that I can do nothing for anybody else in this world but to work on myself. There's this, the deepest truth is just that. And the other way to look at it is, the more I work on myself, the more I am of use to people that I care about.
Yes. Because you are giving a lot of yourself constantly. So so that's sort of how you regenerate and give time to yourself too. You're filling your bucket by doing that every morning.
Yeah. And I draw my inspiration from there. I want to be valuable for the people that I love the most.
Yes.
The customers and, the people, the coaching clients, that's all bonus. For me, first, I want to be of value to people who brought me in this world, my siblings, the people that I call friends. The word is sacred to me. And then everything else is a bonus. But these people, I always want to be able to honor, support, and care for and spoil. Right. So every single thing that I'm doing, it's like, for me, it's easier because I'm a lover. And for me, it's oftentimes easier to be stronger for people that I love than for myself. So when I see these faces, my parents, my siblings, my best friends, and when I see that, I want to be an inspired son, an inspiring son. I want to be an inspired friend and an inspiring friend. Everything else is a bonus. Right?
I would say that you are that. I would definitely say that you are that. So the other thing I wanted to ask you too is I was doing, obviously did a ton of research on you, and you spoke about how to be a good friend, like on this topic, right? Let's talk about that. I wanted to talk to you about that today because it's so important. And so what are your thoughts on how to be a good friend?
To me, when the view of personal growth, I grew up in, like, my education in personal growth came from very American philosophy. Right? It's work on the self. Right? It was very, how do I get something? How do I do this? How do I achieve it? And then while it was really inspiring for me, it was also, somehow it was always perpetuating the idea of separatedness. And it's made me start to view everything around me as my competition that I needed to outgrow. And to a healthy degree, that's useful. Right? But what I started feeling more and more is that, with the Instagram culture and the social media culture, the perpetuating the sense of separatedness from everybody else and seeing everybody else as competition, and the alienation with everybody else in our surrounding. And then as an extension, loneliness being declared as an epidemic. That's the world we live in, or like at least my bubble that I'm living in. Right. So for me, if you look at places where people live the longest, right? They're called the blue zones.
Yes, the blue zones. Yes, Costa Rica is one of them.
Costa Rica is one of them, right? So
where we met. Yes, we met in Costa Rica.
if you start looking at those places, there's not as much separatedness. There's a lot of connection, celebration together, taking care of each other. They don't have any mental health awareness campaigns, by the way. They don't have any education on diabetes and all of that stuff. They don't have, their divorce rates are not going through the roof, right? They don't have any suicide rates increasing by 400%, which is any modern society. That's the trend that they're following. This statistic I got from, I forget the name of the author, but the book Happiness Hypothesis.
Oh, yes. Yep.
That's the guy I got this statistic, last statistic from. So when we look at the blue zones, we realize that there was no need for the personal growth education the way it's booming like crazy in the world. There is no. And what was happening is that the connections and the value of relationship was so profound that we would naturally go into harmony with how like life should naturally unfold. So I grew up in India where I was touched by the value of relationship very deeply. And I believe if every single person in this world has like 3 to 5, what I call elevating friends that push each other to grow, that you can laugh with, be vulnerable with, be openly biased towards. If every single person has 3 to 5 elevating friends like that, there is no need for self-help industry.
You're right.
And for me, that's the juice. That's why, even though I run a personal growth company, what I speak of is that, hey, we're just creating a context of growth. But what we want to do is not engineer friendships, but inspire friendships. The choice of word is important. I don't. It's a very, again, a Western idea that we can engineer everything, we can hack everything. We can inspire it. I believe we can inspire it. And then, we're also part human, part spirit. And spirits, they don't align with the model of engineering, but it's when there's a natural connection, it unfolds. So my idea is to be, when it comes to being, how do I become a good friend? I always look at, am I working on myself? Am I of value to other people? Do I celebrate them, right? And can I be inspired by them? And can I inspire them at the same time, right? That's all, right? So as long as I have that, as long as I'm honoring that, I'm good, right? So what that means is sometimes when hard conversations need to be had, have them, right? When we need to push each other, the pushing the button is actually is something which is uncomfortable. So there's a level of almost a spiritual connection that needs to be there, because normal friends can't push each other's button when you see someone's right? And with our closest friends, we've said things to each other that would destroy relationships, but they were truthful. And then we could say them because the trust, it's coming from a place of love, was so strong that painful pill could be swallowed. So it's an investment in building that trust, investment in recognizing the love that you share and the truth of the beauty that this relationship brings to your life, and re-expressing the commitment that, hey, I'm here to celebrate, enjoy, but also for your growth. And I want you to do the same thing for me. That's where the elevation comes.
I mean, I don't know if, I think there are many people in the world that don't have friends like that. And I think it's not like I have friends like that too, but I've worked on it and I have implemented a lot of the things that you're saying. But for people that don't have friends like that and have a hard time making solid friends, what's the first step or the first thing they can do?
Great question. Great question.
I mean, it's true.
Every time I share, that if everyone has these 3 to 5 elevating friends, we won't need self-help industry. The question I get is, how do I find them? My environment it's very difficult. How do I find them?
There's a reason why you're getting that question, because a lot of people don't have them, sadly, but it's true. I know.
That's the core. And, when I was 10 years old, my dad has an older brother, 18 years older than him. It's almost like a father figure to him. And when I was growing up, my dad was very successful business-wise. And when I was about 8 or 9, he lost his business and was really in a very bad, right? And I saw him and our financial life going down and down. It was not pleasant, right? And there were times I remember I think about 10 or 11, and I wanted something and they didn't have the money. So very, very small thing, and didn't have the money. So my dad said no, right? And while his older brother was financially successful and was taking care of my dad while he was, trying to build himself back up, and we were losing the houses and the cars. And his older brother gave my dad his car, and, very beautiful relationship.
Very beautiful.
But I wanted something and my dad didn't. He said we didn't have the money. So I got angry and I said, I wish I had a brother like you, right? And my dad, at that time, it didn't land with me that deeply as it does now. But my dad told me, don't wish to have an older brother like me, wish to be an older brother like him. And so the better question to ask is, how do I be that elevating friend? Because when we hold the intention to be in that energy, to rest in that energy, you either change your friends or change your friends. When you rest in that energy, and what does that mean? I'm invested in my personal growth, right? I choose to see the beauty in others, right? I choose to speak the truth, even if it's uncomfortable, while holding the love for them, right? I practice those things. That all those aspects are of, the more I can work on myself, the more I can see the beauty in other people and still tell them where they are not going right. And it's an energetic thing. You can't use it. You can't manipulate that with words. It's a reflection of the work that you do on yourself. And so the better question to ask is, how do I be an elevating friend for people that are around me already, right? And then trusting that energy will be at some point be reflected back at you. So it's a question of trust. So it's not an easy answer to absorb. But that's the spiritual answer. And then the practical answer is, once you start walking on that path, what will start to happen naturally is your choices will be different. When you start say, okay, I want to be in a place where I can be an elevating friend for others. That means I need to work on myself. Then you will start finding yourself in places where you're working on yourself while other people are working on themselves too, which is where we met, didn't we?
Where we met. Yes.
It was a place like that, right? So, and
Yes.
then and they become seeds of those relationships, right? That's how Ronan that you interviewed or you're about to interview. That's
Yes.
the place where we met. Vadim, that's the kind of place where we met.
So
And
you
then,
all met because I met you at Rythmia, which is a spiritual awakening place in a life advancement center in Costa Rica. And it's where we go to do plant medicine.
yeah.
And it's wonderful. And we did meet at a place like that. Did you meet all of your friends? Because I met all of your friends, not all of them, but some of your closest.
So,
incredible beings. I'm trying to get all of you on my podcast.
yeah.
Because you're just, I don't know, you're just, all of you are just so elevated and just, you're doing incredible things. So all of you met at a place that had to do with personal transformation or development.
Different places that had to do with personal transformation.
So it's important to go to these things.
Yeah, we were in different organizations. We met the three of us that you're referring to. We all, like one came from Germany, one came from Brazil, I came from Indian who was living in the Philippines. We all moved to Malaysia to join this company called Mind Valley.
Yes.
We all were employees of Mind Valley. That's where we met, right? And they have a very strong culture of transformation within the company, which also gets reflected outside. It's one of the coolest personal transformation companies in the world, right? So that's the context in which we met, right? And there were another 150, 200 people, right? But then our spirits were drawn to each other. And we started to have shared experiences together. And as we had those shared experiences, our relationship, the depth of our relationship only went further. Right? And that became a confirmation. And then 1 or 2 years into, 1 year into, we started doing plant medicines together, but only in ceremonial context.
Yes.
It just immediately, we are in this realm, like this physical human realm, and all of a sudden we're in a spiritual realm also dancing together, fully aligned. And then that just,
Where did you do it the first time with your friends? Where was the first time you did it?
The first time was 2016. At that time I read this book, The Psychedelic Explorer, and there was a lot of psychedelic research that was coming in the personal growth industry. This is 2016.
But okay. So we were talking about plant medicine and where you did it and how and then I wanted to ask you about your first time doing it.
We were exposed to a lot of ideas around the research on psychedelics. And the first one we did wasn't plant medicine, it was LSD, I remember, in 2016. I invited these guys over at home, and we spent. And so Ronan I knew for a while. Ronan Oliveira, he's the head of health and fitness in Mind Valley. Him I knew for 2 years at that time, right? So him I knew really, really well. And then this new guy, a German guy, he had just moved to Malaysia a month ago. And I'm normally I told you, by now you should know, the word friend is very sacred to me.
Yes.
My circle is very, I'm loving to everyone, but like to someone to share a psychedelic journey is like...
It's a big deal. Yeah.
It's a big deal.
I get it.
For some reason, I had great connection with this guy, Vadim, and I invited him over, which is super out of my ordinary thing, but I don't know, something happened.
I get it. I had a great connection with him too. So it's great.
So we shared that journey, and it was so profound for every single person that was there. It was so deeply profound. And we just couldn't stop talking about it, couldn't stop thinking about it, couldn't stop researching about it. And it answered so many things that we didn't even think of. It answered questions that we didn't even have in our minds when we were taking when we first took that experience, But yeah, I normally don't talk about psychedelics as much outside, because it's very easy to make it sound very cool. It is really cool.
Well, it's hard work though too. It's very hard work. It's not easy.
Yeah, and that my hope is that anybody who does it, they don't do it after listening to a podcast like this. They do read people who've dedicated 10, 20 years of their life putting research together and the best recommendations to do this from. And then that's when you go for it, right? It's like we also go for some plant medicine ceremonies together. We take some people from our tribe in India, and we do those experiences together too. But we get trained people who can guide people through that experience. And then there's a 6 months homework that needs to be done.
Yes.
In Rythmia, they say the medicine works if you do the work, right? So otherwise, it's because it's a massive euphoria. A portal opens, right? And which is unbelievable in and of itself. But that door opens, and then you come back in this reality. And the real work is in the integration of it. One of my friends co-founder of Mind Valley, Christina Munn now, she gives this equation of transformation. She said transformation equals experience plus integration.
Integration is everything. Yeah.
So the medicine is the plant medicine or psychedelics is massive euphoric experience, and a lot of like a flood of information comes through our brain and through our being. But it's the integration of, okay, what are the things that I learned and how will I implement them every single day? So when you ask me what's my morning routine, the things that I do every morning are the things that I got an inspiration from during a plant medicine ceremony, which was now more than a month ago. And I commit to doing that for the next 6 months until I learn something new. And I add that to my morning routine template and I start doing that. So I do that every single day without even thinking anymore. Right? But it's the integration that is the important aspect that I hope I wanted to touch upon every time you talk about psychedelics or plant medicine, psychedelic medicine. I think it's an important thing to remember too.
Yeah, if you do it in ceremony and you do it with respect and you do it as medicine and not as, it's interesting because I come from a family and, my brother and my cousins, a lot of them are very successful. So they're very happy with their life. So they think I'm crazy to go and do psychedelics. And I mean, I have learned so much about myself and improved and changed and transformed and elevated in so many ways because of it. But when you speak to people who call it a drug and they don't want to do it because they love their life the way it is, like, how do you talk to people like that, you know what I mean? Because I was trying to talk to my family about it when I got back after meeting you in Rythmia and telling them about what an amazing experience this is. And I was like, you have to do this. And they're already very successful. So they feel like they don't need to do anything to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just for trauma is what I mean. It's not just for people who have a lot of trauma. It's also for personal growth, personal development, transformation.
Yeah, depends on individual context. But, one of the things, whether it's psychedelics or any transformational process, there's the same level of resistance. Like, it could be like you can receive every time. There was a time where I was just learning these things, a lot of these things, and every time you learn something inspiring, you straight away want to go and tell, hey, you gotta listen to this, you gotta read this book. This guy told me this, or this teacher told me this. You gotta study it. It's really, really nice. Right? We learn something and we want to teach it to others. That's a beautiful thing. Here's a interesting perspective that parents understand it intuitively. Right? When you want to teach, right, your children don't do what you tell them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
what was that? What was the last thing that you said? Your children?
What you do, not what you tell them to do. Right? So how do you inspire? Like when we are trying to tell other people that, hey, this is important, in some places it's necessary if someone is really dying, and then they will still ask for help. But in other scenarios, in my experience, when my life reflects a transformative change, people will start coming up to you and say, hey, what changed?
Yeah.
And when that
then
happens,
you tell them, and some take it well and some don't.
No, in that scenario, when they come up to you and say, hey, I want what you had, the breakthrough that you had. Can you show me the path that you took? In 99 out of 100 cases, like if someone comes to you with that place that, hey, what changed for you? Like, I want what created this change for you. That place, like when we get to that place, there's almost no resistance. Mm-hmm. Right? And plant medicine is just one of the shock therapies. It's not the only one. And there's a lot of, I believe, before doing psychedelics, before going into that, like plant medicine is like, if you have a really engine of a car, like 30-year-old car, you can put rocket fuel inside and the car will explode.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it. Yes.
So get a good car first, work on the engine, clean the engine, right? And those are practices that don't require shock therapy. Like plant medicine is rocket fuel. Your life is different within Rythmia. But there's like doing smaller practices, just working on the vessel, get it prepared, right? Go through some difficult stuff with the current state of consciousness, and then use it as a supporting thing rather than a quick fix. I have resistance towards recommending plant medicine as a quick fix towards something, or recommending anything as a quick fix.
Yeah, I agree.
Going to I came after going through a separation, right, with my ex, and I had the option to do it a month after, 2 months after. I said no, again with Ronan and Vadim, my bros, and I didn't, right? And one of the people who were helping me, they also said, fully absorb it, see what you can do without altering your state of consciousness. So I didn't even do any substances, not even alcohol.
Smart, yeah.
Right? Not even smoking weed. I live in Barcelona, it's legal. Right? But just staying present with all the emotion that were there. And once you've done the cleanup to the best of your ability, I came to Rythmia last time with the intention of, is there anything else that I don't see anymore that is left to be cleaned? And that's the intention I came to Rythmia with. And so when you use it as a supplementary process, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, my heart's broken, I need healing, let me just go do ayahuasca. Bad idea. Substances
I
will be better.
understand that. Yeah.
Bad idea. It will be.
It will. Yeah.
Viewing it as a quick fix is not the right approach. And we live in a quick fix culture. So that's why cultivating the mindset of every time I hear a quick fix, I have a little bit of resistance. I ask myself, think twice. It's alluring, it's attractive, because we live constantly in a culture where we believe everything can be quickly fixed. We live in that illusion.
It's true.
It's not our fault. We feel a little bit hot, AC on. We feel a little bit cold, heating on. I think I'll be hungry right after this call. I can order something, maybe in 2 seconds from just by looking on the side of my phone. By the time this interview finishes, I have my food waiting for me. Like any kind of impulse I have, any instinct I have can be fixed. Like we live in this comfort culture, quick fix culture. So when things really break, when really hard stuff happens, we don't know how to deal with it. And it's a privilege, it's a gift and curse of our generation. Nobody had that before. Like you just go back 2 generations, one in most countries, 2 in some countries, that nobody ever had this level of power, this level of privilege, this level of comfort, right? So our mind is kind of is living in this illusion. Everything can be fixed quickly. So when we face things that cannot be fixed quickly, which is where the real life lessons are, then we break easily. And I fear that we are breaking more and more easily with the challenges that are being thrown at us by life.
Yeah, very true.
I want to do my bit to serve other people in not experiencing that, because I did in my own experiences, and I got saved in many other ways because of the work that other people did the work and they taught me. So it saved me in many ways. So when I view any aspect of personal growth, including plant medicine, there's an aspect of whether it's a quick fix or I'm choosing to move towards healing. And it's an aspect of, does this heal more? Does this serve my intention of being a better human being, working on myself? If it's coming from the second place, then it's a yes. If I'm trying to escape from something or trying to fix something quickly,
then it's a no. Yeah.
Shortcut.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And I completely understand that. Yeah. I mean, I could speak with you for hours. You are absolutely incredible. Make sure that you guys research him all over the internet, because there's so much information right out there. Just talks that you've given and all the stages that you've graced. But where can we learn more about you? And if somebody wants to coach with you, what does that look like? And how can they do that? And what kinds of coaching do you offer for people?
Okay. So most of my work is like my company, Life Plugin. So lifeplugin.com or Instagram of Life Plugin. That's where most of the stuff that will happen, that you can follow. There'll be like a marketing person will be sharing stuff daily, consistently, so you can get some inspiration.
Oh, good. Okay.
And to work with me, like on a one-on-one coaching or a group coaching, every year towards the end of the year, we create a 1-year long group coaching program. So I take about 15 people on we call it the accelerator for transformational leadership. And so the aspects of mindfulness, aspects of self-expression, aspects of life visioning, and working on the body, with like some events working a little bit with the medicine, and then a year of integration, one-on-one coaching, group coaching. All of that is put together in one program that gets launched only end of November. Right? So
and you can be anywhere in the world for this. This is online.
Yeah.
But you also integrate plant medicine as well?
You have to come for one event. Okay. You wouldn't want to miss that event. It's right. So it's in the middle of the desert. It may happen again in India. Right now, I'm going to that event next week. It's in the middle of the desert. There's nobody around. Perfect nature. We bring in trained facilitators, and there's 15 people living together. Right? And
awesome. This is incredible. Okay. That's
a physical event. And then the rest happens. You can be anywhere in the world.
So people can't join now until next November?
No.
That's how it is. Okay. Or do you do, unless they want to do one-on-one with you?
Yeah, one-on-one, and that will depend on the calendar availability. But yeah,
I go to your
my time dedicated for just this one. Work with 15 people.
Yeah. Or you can go to your lifeplugin.com and go to that event in April.
Yeah, you can join like the group events or the bigger group events. There are different ways to join them too. But aspects of one-on-one coaching comes from this accelerator we created, like a 12-month program. It's tight, works really well. So I have a lot of faith in that process too. So.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So if you want to expand your life, personal development or transformation, or just meet really cool people and walk away with lifelong friends, I would say get involved, research Gautam, and make sure that you listen to all of his TED Talks. You're incredible. And thank you so, so much for being on Life Masters.
Lady, thank you so much. I hope it serves some value, and
Yes.
see you again. Huh?
Oh, I hope so. I have to come to one of your events.
Yes, absolutely. Would love to have you there.
Perfect.
You have just listened to another inspiring episode of Life Masters with Tanya Memme. To access the show notes for this episode or to listen to more shows, simply visit www.tanyamemme.com. Master your own life and be inspired to help others to succeed. Join us again next time here on Life Masters.